Hello everybody, I am the Moral Atheist. Let's see if I can get through this video, and, in a reasonable amount of time.
Hey YouTube, what's going on? Today, I want to talk about proof of God's existence. And the reason I'm talking about that is because I was reading your comments, the comments you guys have left on my videos, and have noticed a theme. And the theme is a complaint that I haven't provided proof of God's existence, which is sort of funny because if you watch my videos, then you know I've provided countless theological and philosophical arguments.
I highly doubt it's countless. I'll bet you my soul, life, all of my money in my savings account, which granted isn't a lot relative to how much living expenses is, and spending an eternity in maximum torment that you have not given countless theological and philosophical arguments. The requirement for it being false, for it being true, being that if we go through all your videos, we would be unable to count, mark a tally for every time you give argument. So if you would like to take me up on that, let's go. And also, a proof is a great argument. An argument is not necessarily a proof. It's like all squares are rectangles, not all rectangles are squares. So you said people complain that I don't give proofs. Well, you can't do that because I give you plenty of arguments. Okay? That's like, again, saying people complain that I don't give them any squares. Well, you can't say that anymore because I've given you plenty of rectangles. Sure, maybe some of them were squares, but it's implied that not all of them were, otherwise you would just say the more specific term.
For the existence of God. But anyways, here we are, and today I want to talk about the proof of God that resides inside of you, that is inside of each and every one of us. But before I talk about that, I do want to go on a tangent, because I think it's funny that people even ask me to provide proof of God in the first place. Because if you think about it, the proof of God is all around us. Look around you, whether you're at home, work, school, a coffee shop. The fact that you are here, that we are here, the fact that there are people around you, that we live in a world that sustains life, that provides everything you need to live, such as food, water, oxygen.
Unless you're in Africa, then, depending on where you are, you might be lacking food and water. You might be lacking food even if you're in the United States. So except for those people, the world provides for us.
Proteins, nutrients, whatever. The fact that our Earth sustains life and is designed to do so, I think is...
Just because it can do something doesn't mean it was designed to. Okay, here's an example. So, wait, let me bring up the preview. Okay, so, wait. Okay, let me increase the size of the webcam real quick. Alright, so, here is an hourglass. Well, it's not an hour, it's like 30 seconds, but inside those are iron bits, and it works like a regular timer. And then on here is a magnet. That silver thing is a magnet. So look, I stopped lagging. So when you put the timer glass on top of the magnet, then the iron filings make a nice cool like spiky design. It's hard to see it because of the poor resolution, but like, are you gonna say iron was designed to do that because it can do it? And another problem I have with that is I have a problem with fruit flies at the moment. I have an infestation of fruit flies because I set out a trap to trap them with I used fruit as bait, of course, and they multiplied to hell. Does that mean that fruit were designed for fruit flies, or is it just that fruit flies adapted to eat fruit? Or maybe it's just that fruit have the nutrients that are good for fruit flies. They're shrinking down.
great proof of God's existence. Because if you think about it, no, seriously, if you think about it, atheists believe in evolution, or actually...
Okay, I already made a video on this. Nowhere in atheism does it say anything about the theory of evolution, or it doesn't even mention anything having to do, like directly having to do with our beliefs on where life came from and where humans came from. Atheism is just the denial that a God exists. Nothing about what we should be thinking when it comes to the theory of evolution or creationism, although actually, yeah, creationism would basically be God.
Let me clarify, atheists believe in evolution without God. So
there is no evolution with God, because, like, are you saying that God gave organisms the evolution mechanism? Why would he need to? He's all-knowing. He would know what environments, like what foreign environments they would be introduced into, and the adaptations that they would need. And theoretically, and probably historically, a lot of organisms have died because they were unable to adapt quick enough or well enough to their new environment. Like if you dropped a really fuzzy bunny in the Sahara Desert, it'd die because it doesn't have the skills or the tools to extract water from a cactus, and then the hair that it has will keep it warm, which is gonna kill it at some point, and it won't be able to adapt quick enough unless it learns how to shave itself on a cactus without it'll get sunburned.
they believe that in the beginning there was nothing, and out of this nothing came something, energy and heat that coalesced together to create a great ball of energy, which...
It wasn't just energy, it was mass. Oh, I got a notification. All of the mass in the universe was condensed into an infinitely small point. Wasn't just energy.
Was so heated that it exploded in the Big Bang across the universe, spitting out stars and planets and galaxies, and somehow, out of the millions of...
So, and your alternative is that something, namely God in this example, or in this instance, has always been here, which is, it violates human logic, our current human logic too. So it's not any more meritable, except that the Big Bang we can measure with our current modern tools of residue from the Big Bang. That, okay, we don't like absolutely know 100% that it was the Big Bang because we can't observe the Big Bang and see that that was what left it behind, but it corroborates that the Big Bang happened.
Light years, that is the expanse of the junkyard in space, the right atoms came together with protein and water to create cells, the first life form of which...
Well, earlier you implied that because something can do something, it was designed to do it. You know, you said the Earth was designed to sustain life. Well, says who? The secular belief, if you know, since there's no intelligent designer in secularism, is that things happened in accordance with the laws of physics and chemistry and biology and nature, and it just happened to lead to something else. Like if I don't want to waste time thinking of an example. If I think of one, I'll put it into the comment section.
Which are apparently the great grandfathers of everything that exists on Earth. These
yes, let's make the first living organisms male.
Cells of living matter were responsible for creating everything as we know it today, for the trees, poison ivy, dolphins, dogs, grasshoppers, koala bears, and yes, even us humans, which, by the way, we have brains that are more complex than even the most advanced supercomputers in the world.
So, like, what is complexity? Well, if you can understand something, then its complexity sort of dies down. Like, if someone who has no idea how a piano works sat down at a piano and then they pressed this key, and then when they pressed it, a very clear note sound was produced, and like they wouldn't know how it works. But for someone who knows that when you press a key, it activates a mechanism that hits a string which produces a sound, then it loses its complexity, because that's basically like plucking a guitar. It's not that complex. You stretch out a string to a certain tension, and then when you pluck it, because of the tension and how much force you put into it, well, the force changes the volume, and the tension determines the wavelength, which determines the pitch of the sound. So, like, I read an article that was talking about the problem with strong AI. Strong AI is basically an AI that is at the same level or above humans. But if we can make strong AI, then we understand how it works. Like Watson, a lot of ads about Watson have been popping up on YouTube. To someone who does not know what Watson is, other than just it's a computer, he seems ridiculously smart. He beat humans in Jeopardy, but he answers the questions by looking. He takes the text of the question and he picks out what he thinks are key words. Like if it asks, what was the War of 1812 about? So it'll pick up like what is the type of question, and then war, I'll pick that out, and 1812 is a time period, probably. So then it'll go Google, what was the War of 1812? Well, not really Google, he has everything stored in databanks. So he looks through his huge databanks, pulls up all the articles he has about the War of 1812, and then he looks for something that talks about, like, if it says the reason the War of 1812 happened was ... then he just found his answer. So it's basically just a person doing research. It's not that complex, but it seems super smart if you don't understand how it works. So we don't really know how the human brain works to the full extent, but we understand how all of our computer programs works. Computers, like the supercomputers, have way stronger processing power than the human brain. Like most people can only process one, maybe two equations at the same time, but two is very rare. But computers can process like hundreds of equations at the same time. That's way above what humans can do. But we know exactly how they're doing it.
Long story short, atheists believe that somehow after the Big Bang, the universe created animate matter out of inanimate matter, and somehow out of that, consciousness arose from unconsciousness.
Alright, so consciousness, being aware of your environment and being able to respond to it. So, sperm and human eggs are not conscious. They have no senses to perceive the world through sensory information. Like we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can feel, of course. So that gives us a way to analyze our environment and figure out what's around us. And then of course we can respond. Like we can move, we can like recoil if it frightens us. But sperm and eggs don't do that. So they are by definition not conscious. But look, two unconscious things combine and they make a human. So are you saying that we are not conscious?
And they believe that this all happened without God. Don't get mad at me, I'm just pointing out the obvious. But the point I want to make with that is that the earth clearly supports life. It was designed to do so. There is clearly design in the universe.
Where's your proof? Like, show me a blueprint of the universe that also includes all the laws, like, making it so the laws are in place. It's like when someone's writing a computer program, a platformer, they set the gravity. There's a variable for gravity, or maybe they make it a constant, but it'll probably be a variable for when they want to change it in different levels. So if I wanted to, I can make physics, one of the laws of physics be gravity is 5 billion pounds per square inch. It's not fit to to Earth gravity, and it's like, in terms of the scope of Earth, it's not really, it changes the laws of physics, but I can do it because I made the world. So again, show me proof that the universe was made by an intelligent being. Like, show me the blueprints for it.
Things work a certain way, and where there's design, there is always a creator. But anyways, that was my tangent. That the proof of God really is all around us. And now I want to get to the topic of today's video, which is the proof of God that is inside of you and inside of me. And I know that sounds sort of new agey, but I think it's biblical, and I think it's true, obviously, or else I wouldn't be making a video on it. And to illustrate that, I want to tell you a story, and it's a story of when I was at work. We had this client that paid us a ton of money, and it was nearing the end of the...
Skip over this. Basically, his story is the client paid the company really well, and then the company started doing poorly, so his manager told Daniel to basically fake the ledger book, so like how much profit they were making. And then he said, no, I don't want to do this, because we shouldn't lie to our customers who are paying good money for our services. But I'm going to skip it because it takes a while.
Basically, which leads me to the proof of God. The reason I couldn't do what my manager asked, and the reason that it became such an issue, is because I have a conscience, and my conscience was telling me that, hey, it's not right to do that. It's not right to lie to a client who is paying all this money for your services. You have to be transparent. It's business, but still, honesty matters. The reality is that you have a conscience, I have a conscience, we all have a conscience, and I think that is the greatest proof that God exists. But first, let me define what I mean by conscience. Conscience isn't just a feeling that we did something wrong, because, you know, I can have a feeling that I toasted my grilled cheese too long this morning. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That's just a feeling. When I talk about conscience, I'm talking about the knowledge of right and wrong. And we all have a conscience, even non-believers, atheists, people of other religions. Everyone has a conscience. I think that a conscience is sort of like a compass. It guides us in the right direction in life. And like a compass, I think that our conscience can also sometimes be broken. It can need fine-tuning the farther we are away from God. But it doesn't just end there. We all not only have a conscience, but we also have an obligation to our conscience. We are obligated to follow it. That doesn't mean that we always follow it.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead, and usually I don't put the link to videos I'm responding to in the description, but because of time constraints, I'm going to put this one in the description so you can watch it in its entirety. 271 views. Get that up.
But, which is interesting, because
I'm going to skip to the reasons.
We are committed to what you might have is bound to the for us isn't really a conscience. Number two, that above all else, we are committed to what we know to be true. So, as Peter Kreeft says, I think that conscience is great proof of God. Number one, we all have a conscience. Number two, it has authority.
Okay, we all have conscience. Like, okay, I accept that's true, but what does it mean? Like, if you're gonna prove that God exists, then you just say something like, look at this. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it. What about it?
Over us. We are obligated to it. Now, there are really four main objections to the argument of God from conscience. The first argument that you might have is that conscience isn't really a thing. Conscience is something that's abstract. It's more of an idea. The problem with that is that if you agree with the premise that we're bound to our conscience, that our conscience has authority over us.
Okay, so here's my main problem is that line and various other things that he uses to refer to the conscience, saying that the conscience has authority over us is personifying the conscience, which is, as far as we know, the conscience is not like Jiminy Cricket. It's not, sorry, not Jiminy Cricket. Who is the mouse guy from Dumbo? I don't know. Like, the conscience is just in our brain, like your moral code. I have a moral code. The basic rule is what I don't want done to me, I'm not going to do to other people. Like, I don't want to be raped, so don't rape me. And I don't want to be raped, so I'm not going to rape other people. But still, don't rape me.
Well, it's not possible to be obligated to something that's abstract, such as an idea. If it's an idea, though, where does it get its authority from? Because an idea doesn't have authority. An idea can't hold authority over the person who has it, let alone everyone else around him. Number two, the second argument is that conscience is just a biological or an animalistic instinct. Sam Harris wrote a book a while back trying to explain it in this way, talking about our moral compass and how it's really biological and that it's an evolution-driven thing. The only problem with that is that we are bound to our conscience. For example, when you go against your conscience, you feel guilty. But on the other hand, we ignore our biological and animalistic instincts all the time. For example, I was hungry this morning. I had the instinct to eat, but I didn't because I'm on a diet and I'm trying to lose some weight. Our biological instincts aren't absolute, unlike conscience, which has authority over us.
So are you implying that animalistic instincts aren't absolute, but implied, but the conscience is absolute? Because if it's absolute, then you can't go against it, and that's not authority, that's absolute control. It's like a dictator like Hitler has authority and the power, but he doesn't absolutely control anyone, because at any point you can defy him and then he's going to go kill you.
There are many men, for instance. There are men that walk the streets that have the animalistic urge to procreate with pretty women, but they fight against that instinct, and you know what? They don't fight against that instinct and feel guilty. They don't fight against that instinct and feel like they've done something wrong. Conscience can't just simply be a biological thing, because, as I just pointed out, we have a hard time disobeying our conscience. Our conscience has authority over us in a way that biological instincts don't. The third argument against it is that conscience is really only groupthink, that it originates from society. The problem with that is that if it originates from society, think about what society is. Society is basically a group of people like you and me. So what authority do they have over me? What authority does society have over you as far as morality goes? Must we never disobey society? The German society committed the Holocaust, so does that mean that they were right in doing so? To say that society is the root of conscience or the root of morality, that would be like saying you could put a bunch of prisoners in a jail, and then because conscience comes from society, and you have a society in the jail, that those prisoners are now the judge. So no, conscience does not come from society. And the fourth argument is that conscience comes from something greater than you, but isn't quite God. But as I just talked about, it's obviously not society. It's not even biological instinct. So really, when all the candidates are taken out, I think that leaves room for God. Not necessarily the Christian God, but just the idea of God in general. My battery just went out, so I'm plugged into the wall, which is why I'm in the new place. But anyways, to sum up the argument, it's basically that we all have a conscience, and that conscience has absolute authority over us. We might not always obey it, but we're bound to it. We feel guilty when we disobey it. And the only way that we can all have that instilled of us is through some greater, perfect, good, and all-loving being, which is God. In other words, conscience is the voice of the will of God.
Alright, so if conscience is the word of the will of God, then why is it that it differs between people? Like, some people enjoy murder, and they murder for fun. Some people will torture children because they find it amusing and entertaining. I personally find such an act completely appalling. I would hate every moment of doing it. And then in prisons, as you mentioned before, there is a rape problem in prisons. Like, in general society, raping someone, like they drop the soap and then you rape them just because their ass is now in the air, is apprehensible, and you're going to prison for rape. But the men who raped the person did so because either they enjoy it, well, of course everyone enjoys the act of having sex because, we were built that way, so we wouldn't hate reproducing, or, because there are no women in the all-male prisons, then their sexual tension builds up because everyone, like 99% of the population, has the regular biological desire to have sex, to reproduce. So then it goes back to, like, they have a desire to have sex, so they don't have a problem with raping the person. It's a different level of conscience, different type of conscience, different rules. Like, it's against my conscience if the conscience is actually a real thing, which that leads to my next thing. The conscience is not proven to exist, because there is no, like, we haven't found a box or any part of our brain that, like, lights up every time you do something that goes against your conscience. And I gotta finish up this.
Yeah, those are just my thoughts. And as all.
All right, and then let's see what this. Oh my God. Let's quickly answer these. Nope, that's not to me. This one? Oh, yeah. Alright. Okay, not sure which Merriam-Webster you're reading from, but from the actual website, I'm getting a consistent definition of conscience as a sense of right, wrong, and the conformity to what is right. I got my definition, which is right here, from Merriam-Webster website. I'm getting a consistent definition of conscience as a sense of right, wrong. Oops. Alright, this will be the last thing I do. So don't forget to, whoops, wrong one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to encourage me to make more videos, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's see. Oh, he's looking up conscience. So it's spelled like con-science, not conscious. Because it's consciousness, not conscience. Consciousness, I don't think that's a term. But yeah, I'll go respond to him, and then I'll see you guys next time. Bye, and sup, Stay with Daniel.